Welcome back to Extending Grace Podcast. This is Darlene Amos-McElroy, your host. I'm sure you read the title and you're thinking she made an error in the grammar because you do not put is with you. Well, it's just a little play off words from Viola Davis' character in The Help when she told the little girl that you is kind, you is smart, and you is important. Well, when relationships are hard, you is a part of the problem. You're part of the reason, and we're going to explore that today. Last week, we talked about values. And if you get a chance, go back to listen to those particular podcasts on Are You Respecting Your Values? How do we separate while connecting? And how do you find purpose in your relationships? Now, when values are different, that is one of the problems that causes relationships to be difficult. Go back when you get a chance after this and listen to those podcasts. Today, we're going to talk about why relationships are difficult and how we expand from the point of why it is necessary to know who we are. We're going to dive into self differentiation. We're looking into a family system theory by Maurice Bowens, and I'm going to kind of play off of that as our foundation. And it talks about self differentiation as the amount of self you have in you. The amount of self you have in you. How much are you reacting to others' values and their emotions or their feelings, their opinions? Are you able to balance intimacy and independence? In the movie on Prime Videos that I recently watched, it was recommended by my sister, and I must say, an excellent choice. The name of the movie is You Before Me. The female character made this particular statement to this young man that said, I can make you happy. She had a pattern of giving up self for others. Now, of course, we don't want to be selfish, but we do want to be self caring. And in this particular movie, if you watch the movie, and I hope you do if you haven't already seen it, there's a pattern of behavior where she's looking at always helping others, disregarding everything that she may or may not want. So many of us, we operate in our relationships in this way, and we blame others for how we operate. Now, it's not always that you understand that you're doing this. You can be kind of brought up in a family system that you learn that you are on the back burner. Everything else and everyone else comes first. And you operate in such a way that you're enmeshed with the family. And when you move on, you become enmeshed with others because it's a basic pattern of behavior. Self differentiation recognizes that yes, we have a dependence on others, but we also have an independence. There's an interdependence, which means that we rely on each other, but we maintain a sense of self. We value ourselves, we value our values, we respect who we are as people, the things we like, what we dislike, and we feel emotionally supported. Both persons in the relationship or the family system. When a person is self differentiated, they can stay calm and clear headed enough in the face of conflict, criticism, and rejection to make a careful assessment of the facts versus emotional opinions or just operating from the emotion. When we learn to be self differentiated, we act on the best interests of a group without relationship pressure. So you don't put the internal or external pressures on you as the reason why you're making particular choices. You are looking at the whole group and what is best for that group, including yourself. I'm going to also have in the first comment a scale that shows you self differentiation. Now, of course, these are not, just the absolutes. And you'll see that it does run from a low number 0 all the way to 100. Please do not take this scale and try to judge other people because a lot of times you don't really know all of what makes them. But you can use this to kind of determine where you are as far as emotional maturity? And can you separate yourself from others? People that are low on the scale, when you look at that particular scale, you'll see that they're going to have hard relationships because they live in a feeling world. And sometimes that feeling world can be to a point of numbness, trying to escape how you really feel, that you just block off emotions. So you're going to have a difficult relationship when you live in a feeling world. People low on the scale also have high levels of chronic anxiety. They have a hard time being comfortable with negative emotions in situations. Now, some people say, well, I don't have anxiety. I don't suffer from anxiety. Well, you may call your anxiety a lot of stress or people getting on your nerves often, or you may see that you can't sleep at night, or you're waking up early, or you're waking over in the middle of the night and you cannot go back to sleep. These can be symptoms of chronic anxiety. Just having what we would say a lot of things on our mind that's staying on our mind over and over. Now, there can also be some physical reasons like a lack of different vitamins and minerals, but you would have to kind of talk to your doctor about that or have blood work done to kind of determine that. Or you can also play around with your diet to see if you get certain minerals if you will sleep better. But when you're sleeping, and especially when you go to bed at night and you're constantly thinking about something, you cannot get your mind to rest. It could be a form of anxiety. People low on the scale have hard relationships because they have difficulty maintaining long term relationships. They give up easily. And this one I understand because this is one that I also struggled with in my past, that you just, somebody make a decision and you think that they're out to get you, they're out to hurt you about every decision they make. And so you just say, you know what? They don't meet my standards. I give up. I quit. I don't want to be around them. They don't care about me the way I care about them. People low on the scale are always concerned about how they are loved and how they are loving others. People have hard relationships when they don't have boundaries, meaning they have all talk but no action. They don't understand the concept of making a boundary, how to maintain the boundary, or how to communicate the boundary. They just don't know how. People have hard relationships because they mostly function in an emotional reactiveness to the environment. These people are just popping off here and there. I mean, you never know what they're very unpredictable behavior. You don't know what's going to make them just pop off. It can be the same thing you said yesterday, but they just for today, it gets under their skin, or they've been holding it in, and instead of communicating, they pop off. Very reactive. People on low on the scale have hard relationships when they don't self differentiate because they are not aware of their thoughts and their feelings that separate from other people, and they're not aware of the alternatives. Some people think I have to fight. They really believe that that is the only way they're going to survive in this life. They don't see the alternatives. People low on the scale of self differentiation have hard relationships because their responses range from automatic compliance sometimes to extreme oppositional behaviors. There's no middle. They don't reason well. So now we're going to go over into an example from the Bible, looking at 1 King 21, focusing on King Ahab and his wife Jezebel. For your pleasure and for your full understanding, please read the entire story of Ahab, chapter 16 through 22. For today's reading, I'm going to read 1 King 21, 1 through 7. Sometime later, there was an incident involving a vineyard belonging to Naboth the Jezreelite. The vineyard was in Jezreel, close to the palace of Ahab, king of Samaria. Ahab said to Naboth, "Let me have your vineyard to use for a vegetable garden, since it is close to my palace." In exchange, I will give you a better vineyard, or if you prefer, I will pay you whatever is worth. But Naboth replied, the Lord forbid that I should give you the inheritance of my ancestors. So Ahab went home, sullen and angry, because Naboth the Jezreelite had said, I will not give you the inheritance of my ancestors. He laid on his bed sulking and refused to eat. His wife Jezebel came in and asked him, why are you so sullen? Why won't you eat? He answered her, because I said to Naboth the Jezreelite, sell me your vineyard, or if you prefer, I will give you another vineyard in its place. But he said, I will not give you my vineyard. Jezebel, his wife, said, is this how you act as a king over Israel? Get up and eat. Cheer up. I'll get you the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite. And so, as you read the rest of that chapter, you will see that she devises a plan to get what her husband wanted. She reacts to her husband's emotions. Now, of course, she's acting like a bully. She's doing things that should not be done. She's taking away things. So, but if you look at it, she is on the low scale herself. She's not operating in a high level of self differentiation. She's reacting to his emotions. It looks like she just likes control, and that's possibly because people who react often and quickly without reason or any logic will want to have control. That's the anxiety in a person. Now, we know from Jezebel's life story that she has a lot of other things going on too. But when we look at Jezebel's response, it's very impulsive. It's a loss of control, even though she thinks she's in control. And as you read the story, you will very well see she is not in control, but she thinks she is. She has mood swings. She's quick and unpredictable. When you read about Jezebel, she reacts very quickly, and she acts often in actions of hurtful words and actions in anger. She's very low on the scale of knowing who she is without being connected to her title, her position, and things of that nature. In verse 15 and 16, as soon as Jezebel heard that Naboth had been stoned to death, she said to Ahab, get up and take your possession of the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite, for that he refused to sell you. He is no longer alive, but dead. Very reactive, quick, doing what she thinks is a control that she can't be in control of. Now let's look at how Ahab responds. When he heard that Naboth was dead, then he decides to go ahead and get up and went down and took possession of the vineyard. So you see this couple who is operating in for now. I don't want to take away that it is evil in how they're operating, but I'm also pointing out how they're very codependent. They're not healthy interdependent. They're not relying on the right emotions. They're not relying on the right logical response to someone not wanting to sell you something. I mean, think about it. This man literally gets upset, is sullen and angry, and lies on his bed and refuses to eat because someone says, no, no, I don't want to sell you the inheritance of my ancestors. Then his wife comes in and she just takes over. Now I'm sitting up here. I mean, it's funny from this standpoint. It's not from the evil standpoint. But if you think about your own life, I am sure if you've ever been in a relationship with anyone, your children, you're a spouse, a good friend, if you are emotionally reactive, you've done this in a number of situations. I know I have. Didn't realize what I was doing. I just thought I was, being very supportive friend. I mean, if you got mad, I was mad. If you want to fight, I want to fight. It didn't take much to make me emotionally reactive. This is not a healthy stance of relationships, and it typically burns out the relationship. Your relationships will not last like this because one of you will get tired, emotionally drained from their reactiveness. Also, it is just a side note for us all. For the Christian, it is very important that we learn to self differentiate because we don't get the excuse for doing evil things from God. If you look at verse 17 and 18, you will see God's response to Ahab. Now, he also responds to Jezebel, but remember, Jezebel is the one who creates the plan. But God sends Elijah to talk to Ahab, and he confirms what I'm saying, that we don't get the excuse that because somebody else did the dirt and we just follow along. We don't get the excuse, and God still holds us responsible. Now, here's another example of a stronger sense of self. And if you've heard me speak before, you know that I truly love this particular person in the Bible. Today, when I was, thinking about it, recording it, I think I loved it so much because this particular person had something I didn't have. She had the ability to respond under pressure without being so reactive. Now, I didn't have it, but I was learning how to have it, and you get a chance to see that in my memoir, I Ate the Cake, A Journey for Justice, that you can find on Amazon and other major book retailers. If you've read the story already in my memoir, you will know what I'm talking about is that I was working through managing these emotions and not constantly running away from conflict or reacting to the environment, popping off left and right. In my previous experiences with work, if there was a conflict, I said what I had to say. In my childhood, I just said what I had to say. I didn't care about the consequences. It was just going to be whatever it was. But as God was maturing me, I thought it was just spiritual being mature, but I was also being emotionally trained and emotionally maturing. Now, I'm not on the high scale, y'all. I'll be the first to admit it. I'm not 100, probably not even 95, probably not even a 90. When people have a low sense of self, they're going to react. Now, that reaction may not be explosive. It could also be that they just avoid or they run and they don't want to make decisions. So it could be just the very opposite of what you're thinking as well. It's still an emotional response to run or to just not react or to just shut down. That's still a response. Now, when we look at First Samuel chapter 25, we will see that there is a man who's married to Abigail, and his name is Nabal. Nabal is requested by David. David is on the run from Saul, and David requests from Nabal supplies. You read the first part of that, and I'm going to skip down to what our focus is today. Nabal decides that he's going to be big and bad and not give anything to David. So David sends word that I'm coming to your household and I'm going to take it all out. We're wiping it out because of Nabal's response to David. Looking at verse 14, we see the introduction of his wife, Nabal's wife, Abigail. Starting at verse 14, one of the servants told Abigail, Nabal's wife, David sent messengers from the wilderness to give our master his greetings, but he hurled insults at them. Yet these men were very good to us. They did not mistreat us, and the whole time we were out in the fields near them, nothing was missing. Night and day, they were a wall around us the whole time we were herding our sheep near them. Now think it over and see what you can do, because disaster is hanging over our master and his whole household. He is such a wicked man that no one can talk to him. Abigail acted quickly. She took 200 loaves of bread, 2 skins of wine, 5 dressed sheep, and 5 roasted grain, 100 cakes of raisins, and 200 cakes of pressed figs, and loaded them on the donkeys. Now, that's ending at verse 18. But if you continue to read, you will see how her responsible behavior and her ability to remain calm. Now, notice that she acted quickly. So there's a low level of anxiety and is used appropriately. Remember, anxiety is our trigger to do something, do what is needed in the moment. So she reacts, but she reacts with a calm and rational disposition. Her ability to think is independent of her husband's irrational and irresponsible behaviors. Notice, now she does talk to her husband later, but she waits until she talks to him. Notice that she didn't go and run into him and call him all kinds of names and go off on how he should have done this and how he put everybody in jeopardy. No, verse 18 tells us what she does in order to save herself, thinking and the household, thinking in a group dynamic, what is best for the group, not just what is best for her. If she had all of these resources, she could have left. She could have taken what she wanted and said, you know what, y'all on your own. She did not respond this way. She moves on behalf of the group. She's not a bully or a rebel, but more so she is a leader. She guides the service in what to do. She responds very well. She listens without reacting only to her emotions or to the emotions of the servant. She's listening, and she's also inner directed. She's self sufficient. And most importantly, she is self regulated. She does not require someone else like Ahab to coddle her, to soothe her into making decisions. A low sense of self will lead you to hard relationships because you create codependent tendencies, meaning your happiness is dependent on others. What do you want to eat? How can I fix something better for you? Now, I'm not saying that just your general care and concern about what you give to others, but it's extended to a point that you can't be satisfied until the other person has told you how to satisfy them. Relationships are hard because sometimes you can be trained to empathize too much, which is why I mentioned the movie at the beginning of You Before Me, is because, or I think Me Before You on Prime, because she empathized so much that she was way out of balance. Now she eventually gets back into balance, but and I won't. I'm trying to avoid saying my opinion about the movie because there's a part there's I have opinions about, like we all do. But the whole point here is that she got too involved emotionally, that she overreached what the boundary should have been for herself. Remember the comment that she made, I told you earlier, I can make you happy. Relationships are also hard because when we don't know what we want to do with our own life, we have answers for everyone else's. We know what they should do, how they should do it, how long they should do it, who else they should get involved. We can dictate other people's lives and future, but then when you ask us, what are your hobbies? What do you like to do? What are you working towards? The answer is, I don't know. Or we revert back to saying about someone else's life. Relationships are hard because when you cannot manage your time, you're going to be impulsive. Impulsive people are not reliable. You jump from one stress induced event to another. You'll hear people say, I thrive in chaos. But baby, thrive on your own because chaos is not the foundation to hang on. Chaos will cause your body to go into emotional stress, physical stress that is not good for you, to stay in that chronic type of anxiety. Yes, there are going to be chaos in life, but our goal is learning how to manage our emotions around chaotic events. People who have hard relationships tend to be, believe it or not, they can be bullies. And what I mean by that, no, they're not punching you or hitting you. And by the way, if you are experiencing someone beating you or mistreating you emotionally to a point that you don't know who you are, please get to a safe haven. Please call 911, get some resources, go to your police department, find help. But the people who have hard relationships, can be bullies because they have these overwhelming, intense emotions during conversations when you don't agree with them. So they go on and on and on to prove a point until you either shut down or just say, okay, you're right. That's a bully, y'all. They can't understand that it's okay to disagree and you don't have to share the same opinion. You don't have to believe what someone else is believing. Now, if they're your circle of friends, you can choose based on those values how long you want to be in that relationship or how you want to manage the interactions. People who have hard relationships have them because they feel used by others from having poor boundaries. They get mad, but then they go back and return to the same behaviors. They will also blame others often for how they're feeling or criticize people because you didn't make them feel loved enough. Your happiness is not dependent on your family, your children, your spouse. Is not dependent even on your job. Now, can it be influenced? Absolutely. But it's up to you to decide how you're going to respond to these events. And I know it's difficult, especially if you have not become aware that this is how you operate and you're struggling with these emotions, you're struggling with not being so reactive, you're struggling with not blaming everybody for what went wrong in your life. These things can be very difficult, but it can be accomplished that you can learn how to regulate. People who have hard relationships have low self esteem that's masked in perfection or highly confident, which is pride. Some people will say, well, I'm type A, and this has to go this way, this way. And I do believe in some types. However, you're not perfect. I'm not perfect. And demanding that someone else be perfect to make us happy is a masking that you actually have low self esteem, more than likely, and you're not as confident as you would like to be internally. So you're blaming others, you're criticizing them to make them fit into a box so that you can feel better about you. I'll never forget this particular incident early in our marriage. I was complaining to my husband about, what I think many people complain about when they get married, about not participating in the daily chores as much as I would have liked. And he responded this to me, and I'm going to tell you the truth. It ticked me off to high heavens. He said, you do what you want to do because you want to do it. You do what you do because you want to do it. And so for those next 3 days after that comment, I made it a point to not do anything at all because I was going to show him how it felt to not do anything. But something interesting really occurred within those days as well. He was right. I wanted him to make up the bed every day because I wanted a made up bed. And when he didn't make up the bed, I made up the bed, essentially doing what I wanted to do and for what I wanted. Now, that's a simplification of it. And I'm not trying to make light of conflict when there's in the home. But many of the things that we're fussing and complaining about for other people is because what we want done. And there are other ways of getting things done without having so much conflict. If you're having a highly in conflicted areas in multiple relationships, seek counseling or seek some books on conflict resolution. People who have hard relationships, they have them because they live by others' definition of happiness or success. Your success is how you defined it, not by the dollar amount that someone else says you should make. Your success is on the job you want, not by the job that makes the family seems like they got it going on. Your happiness can be simply defined as that I enjoy going home reading a book. I don't want to go out every Friday night. You define your happiness and your success. People who have hard relationships, they have them because they more than likely they don't have life goals. There's nothing they look forward to. So all they have time to do is to think about what you should do better, not focusing on their own life. Now, to come back to Viola Davis' comments about being kind, you are smart, and you are important. You can, we can, I can, you can, all of us can get better with Christ. He gives us the opportunity each day for a clean slate. Now, I'm not going to say that you have the repeated patterns of behavior because that would run people off, but God gives us a clean slate, new mercies every day. Christ has made it where we can focus on our relationships with Him and others because we don't have to work for salvation. The moment you say, I believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God, He died on the cross for my sin, He rose again and with all power in His hand, He is my Lord and my Savior, you are saved. You don't have to work for it, but you do have to work at these relationships, and you have to work at your relationship with Him. Jesus wants you to have what He says in His word, life in life more abundantly. It starts with your relationship with Him. It starts with you. He is forgiving, He is kind, and He is important in our walk with Him and others. If we take on the mindset of Christ, the fruit of the Spirit will produce and it will unburden our souls and make us free to be all He has created us to be. There is so much information in the Bible that teaches us how to walk this life, but we just got to digest it and sit with it and ask the Holy Spirit to help us to understand it. The Bible is relevant to every situation you have, but we have to accept it and we have to put on the mind of Christ. If you like this podcast, please like it, comment, subscribe, and share with others. Our next podcast will focus on the third reason why your relationship sucks. Until that time, stay blessed because you are smart, you are important, and you can get better with Christ. Life can be better. I'm not going to say it will be absent of conflict. It will not be. But you can learn how to live in a balanced state and have a more fruitful life.